Joe Rogan thinks UFO whistleblower David Grusch may be a useful idiot for UFO disclosure. Hi, I'm Patrick. This is Vetted. Let's jump in so I can show you what I'm talking about. Yes, so recently David Grusch was on Joe Rogan, right? Great interview. Everyone was waiting for it. Loved it. Well, Joe Rogan has more guests on afterwards, and he starts to discuss David Grusch and his claims with this guest on the show, and it's a little interesting of what Joe Rogan says about it. So let's dive in and look at the clip so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know how I feel, to be honest with you. Look, Joe Rogan is sort of famous at this point for flip-flopping on the UFO, right? Back in the day, he was all in. Now he flip-flops. He goes back and forth on it. Right, so let's take a look at the clip so you can see what I'm talking
about. The Joe Rogan Experience.
So you were saying that you're on the fence, off the fence about Grusch.
The story I was hearing is it's a lot. I'm going to skip a lot of it, but what I was reading and / what they were saying is that one possibility that could be going on is there is I think we're taking in some of Graham Hancock stuff too. If people were around on Earth 500.
Okay, so what young Jamie, right, who works behind the scenes for Joe Rogan, starts to say here, I have a clip to support this, so just stick around. I think I know what young Jamie's about to get into because it kind of goes all over the place.
1,000 years ago, in some way, there was some split and a second set of humans continued on, and we're like in this interdimension space where they're both happening simultaneously.
He's about to get to the David Grusch part, Joe Rogan is.
And that's where, like, if
he was saying this?
No. This is from I'm gathering this all from like that video. I'm adding in some of Graham Hancock stuff too, because this kid also interviewed him, Jesse Michels, on his podcast.
Okay.
And they're talking about some of the same stuff. But something they said in the Grusch interview on his podcast was that an idea would be that these people exist on like a split timeline from us. Like, we had cataclysms and died and repopulated and whatnot. Now we've ended in this place in 2023 with combustion engines and we're flying around. These people would have been in a different anti-gravity. Who knows what they figured out.
And they went somewhere else?
They're not even saying that. This is where, like, they're not going to talk. They haven't talked about that, but I think what they're saying or getting at maybe is that they're here, and that's why the nuclear thing is so important to them. They're on the same planet as us, and if we blow up the planet, it goes away for them.
So they're
too.
here, we just don't know where they are?
And that's where the interdimension thing comes in. That's what I'm gathering out of what I've heard.
How high were you when you came up with this theory?
It's not, I don't think I'm saying it's my theory. This is what they're sort of saying.
I understand.
And Grusch is sort of like, that's an interesting thing you're saying. He's not confirming it with them or anything, but it's a lot to take in. That's definitely for sure.
Yeah.
So I have this clip from the Jesse Michels documentary about David Grusch, the one that came out. It's like 2 hours long. I think this is, I think that's what young Jamie's talking about. But let's watch. I'll come back to that. Let's watch the clip with David Grusch, or what Joe Rogan talks about with David Grusch. Let's watch that first, and then we'll come back to the clip with Jesse Michels. Look, I've got it all loaded up right there. But let's come back to that.
It's all a lot to take in. David Grusch is that UFO whistleblower that testified in front of Congress.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, man. The thing about it is, I believe he's telling the truth as far as what he's experienced and the documents that he uncovered and the people that he talked to. But how do you know whether or not they're just using him as a useful idiot to just get out some silly story because they're covering up for the fact that there's some very advanced drone system that the United States government has they're trying to keep under wraps?
Right.
It might be
Tough
both.
to know.
I think it's probably both things. Well, here's the thing. You're out in the woods all the time. You ever see a UFO?
No.
Ever see Bigfoot?
No.
Ever talked to a hunter that's seen a UFO?
No.
Ever talked to a hunter that's seen Bigfoot?
I talked to,
Really?
The guys down.
He's like, what? I don't know what point, they go on to talk a little bit more. I don't know really what Joe Rogan's point is, but like this idea, right, that I guess this has always been out there, right? This idea that people are feeding, like David Grusch believes what he's saying, but people are feeding him this information, and it's really just to cover up our own tech that we have, not UFO tech. But it's so secretive, it's so advanced, right? That's part of them helping keep it secret and under wraps is this sort of UFO, thing that can exist out there, and people believing it's UFO and aliens, right? Keep them off the real trail, right? And so David Grusch is a useful idiot. That's what Joe Rogan is saying. I don't know if he necessarily means it in a negative way, but it does come off a little weird, right? After he just had him on, right? And David Grusch, of course, is going to see this. I don't know. It's probably got to be deflating to see that. I mean, I don't know. What did y'all think of the full interview with Joe Rogan and David Grusch? How did Joe Rogan treat David Grusch, right? How did he seem towards him, right? He seemed very low energy at the beginning, Joe Rogan did, but I couldn't tell if that was from just having worked out or stayed up late or this or that, right? Other factors other than, not too sure about this guy, right? Not too excited to have him on, but I'm having him on, right? I couldn't tell, to be honest with you. So I don't know, right? I mean, he didn't add, more to like, well, he seemed very believable. I mean, just look at how much he would say about Bob Lazar, Joe Rogan would, right? How much he believed Bob Lazar and how much that. I mean, look, Bob Lazar hasn't testified in front of Congress. David Grusch has testified in front of Congress. He's done everything by the book the way he's supposed to if something like this is going on, right? How can Joe Rogan not be all in on this and not all in on, how can he be all in on Bob Lazar but not all in on this? I don't get it. It doesn't add up to me. So look, let's look at the clip from Jesse Michels here. We'll come back to this clip and round it out. They talk a little bit more. But let's round out the clip from the Jesse Michels video that I think young Jamie is talking about at the beginning of that other clip, right? The holographic principle. That's what I think he's bringing up from this video. So I'll put a link to this other documentary, right, about David Grusch from Jesse Michels. Remind ourselves, so great films, 2 hours, so well worth it, and a timestamp to this specific part. This is what I think he's talking about. This took me a minute to find, by the way.
When I mentioned the holographic principle. If you want to imagine a 3D object such as yourself casting a shadow onto a 2D surface, that's the holographic principle. So you can be projected, quasi-projected from higher dimensional space to lower dimensional. It's a scientific trope that you can actually cross. Originally, the holographic principle was created to explain how information is encoded on an event horizon in a black hole. But maybe that's what we're seeing higher dimensional stuff casting shadow into our space, just like how we cast a shadow on a two-dimensional surface, which is like the sidewalk, right? Well, if you were on flat land, you would have no idea that this crazy 3D monster was, out there, but all you're seeing is the shadow, and it's called quasi-projection. And maybe some of the UAPs are not even, they're here, but they're not actually from out there.
I cannot show you a tesseract because
So, anyway, they go on. There's more. Again, this is a great film. Watch this with Jesse Michels. Put a pin in that. Yeah, watch that. If you haven't already. If you haven't already. It's got 2.3 million views. Please watch that. It's well worth it. So, I don't know. What do y'all think about Joe Rogan and his thoughts on David Grusch, him saying that? I mean, again, that is a possibility, right? I think it's very tiny, in my opinion. I think David Grusch is onto something, but, until we actually have all of the cards laid out, if you will, it still is a possibility, as small as it may be, right? It may be minuscule, but it's still a possibility. Joe Rogan kind of is putting it at the forefront, thinking it's, the best possibility. I don't know. Let's continue to watch this clip with Joe Rogan talking about it, Bigfoot and this other stuff.
At San Carlos, the Apache Reservation,
Yeah.
they said they've seen stuff.
Okay. Were they on peyote?
I don't know.
Because I know a lot of those Indians like to get down.
I don't think so. I mean, and it's been multiple times.
What kind of stuff?
Something square flying.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Because that is the thing that they describe,
See,
right? It's
Joe?
a square with a sphere inside of it, like a black. No, the opposite.
Yeah.
a sphere with a black square inside of it.
That's Ryan Graves. What's he testified to about?
Force field or something.
I always fucked that up.
So that's I don't know anybody other than that. That's the first story I've heard from somebody who I have talked to.
Well, that kind of makes sense. Because that thing they do spot, that's a common one. Some flying square inside a sphere, like a translucent sphere. And that's like legitimate pilots have seen that. That's a weird one.
Right.
Because that my theory, and this is totally unfounded without any research whatsoever. It's just
those are the best kind.
This is my favorite kind of theories. My theory is that they have this ability to make something move in this insane way with gravity, but they can't put a body in it and they can't put weapons in it. They can't. It's just an object that they can get to move at insane rates of speed. That's what I think. I think the military applications of this thing have yet to be figured out. But I think they do have something that can do things that we have no knowledge of. But the United States government is probably have in their possession something that was either back engineered from something from somewhere else or something that they developed in a completely top secret environment with the top research scientists probably during the wars, during World War II and Vietnam.
That's impending.
And in Iraq and Afghanistan. You think about the amount of money that gets funneled through the government. And that they don't, I mean, didn't the Pentagon just for the 6th year in a row fail their audit? Imagine if you failed your audit 6 years in a row. Boy, they'd crawl up your ass with a fucking microscope.
Yeah.
I think, was that what it was?
They've ever passed it? But yeah, that is correct. It says it failed 6th audit with number passing grade.
So there's a lot of money flowing around is my point.
Yeah.
And who knows how much of that money is going to these secret programs that we don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
And if they did that and they did have the top scientists, and if I was the fucking president and I was the chief of staff and
This is like all in support of what Grusch is saying, right?
I was running the Pentagon, I would want the best scientists. So I'd recruit the best scientists, and I'd say, hey, this is national security. We're working on this project. It uses gravity propulsion. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody, but you get to work on some cool shit.
Yeah, and you get paid a lot of money.
You get paid a lot of money, and you get to be a part of one of the most insane discoveries in human history. So this is what we're working on.
Yeah.
I think that's likely too. But then you got to go back to like the Foo Fighters from the 1940s and the crash at Roswell. And that you also have to be open to the possibility that, like, look, there's a lot of planets out there. A lot of planets out there. It's very possible that we're not alone.
Very possible. Look, this idea that like David Grusch has secretly just, tripped up upon some programs that actually it's just our stuff that, advanced technology from the U.S., right? Weapons applications, right? This idea that these programs and leaders of these programs would just let Grusch go public with this UFO thing, right? Wouldn't they have already way back when he started looking into this, wouldn't they pulled him aside and said, hey, listen, this is our stuff. Just calm down on this, right? Wouldn't they have just done that and put a squash to this? He had a high clearance. I mean, you know what I mean? Easily could have been told, didn't have to be told the details of it, but they could have told him that and he would have accepted that and moved on. This idea that it's actually just our tech. I don't think all these people would come out the way they have, right, over the years. All these different people. Right? I just feel they would have been told, hey, listen, this is our stuff, just relax. Right? I mean, why wouldn't you just do that instead of letting it come out as UFO stuff? Because then you just have people wanting to dig deeper into government programs within the U.S., right? It has a complete opposite effect of a PSYOP. Right? Yeah, some people might think it's crazy, but a lot of people are going to be like, let's look more. Right. So this idea that you wouldn't have already pulled Grusch in a long time ago when he first started looking into this, said, hey, listen, this is our stuff. Just, slow your roll, Dave. But they didn't. Right. there was just more evidence that this was non-human, you know, over and over. NHI, non-human. We got, you know, not of this earth, right? So not, again, some of this stuff could be our tech, but that we reverse engineered from, right, non-human craft. So I don't know. I just, that idea that it's some psyop, you know, that he's a useful idiot, I just don't buy that. I just don't buy that about David Grusch. I just don't. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think of Joe Rogan's comments? Is he flip-flopping? How quickly he goes from having him on to then talking about him with this guy in kind of a, I don't want to say disrespectful, but, you know, just open way. I mean, it is just an open conversation. So I don't know. What do y'all think? All right. See you on the next video. This is Patrick Vetta. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Again, leave your comments down below, and please subscribe. We're getting new subscribers every day, so thank you guys so much for the support. Couldn't do it without you. Bring a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, USA. Let's go, y'all. This is Patrick with Vetted. Remember, every day's a gift. We'll see you on the next video. Peace.